Smart Travels is a grand tour of the old world, the people, places, sights, and distinctly European flavors. Our host is travel writer and columnist Rudy Maxa, Public Radio's original savvy traveler. Now, tips, trips, and secret places on Smart Travels.
What do you get when you cross the kind of fierce determination that can literally turn back the tides with a super tolerant, easygoing social attitude? The answer? A complex little powerhouse called the Netherlands. On this trip, we'll explore seductive Amsterdam, head south to the palaces of The Hague, and then peek in on delightful Delft. The Dutch certainly know the value of hard work. And perhaps more than any other country, they know the value of exploration and of embracing different cultures. For centuries, a willingness to explore has been this country's stock and trade. In this program, I hope to show you places that will convince you to do some exploring of your own. As a travel writer and journalist, I've traveled all over the world, and I've picked up a lot of tips along the way. I hope to share with you some of what I've learned, the best values, the most satisfying sights, and the latest travel tricks. Amsterdam is right near the top of my best cities list, and a canal boat offers a welcoming introduction. Canals embody the spirit of this city. Free-flowing and expansive, but framed by gabled architecture that's deeply rooted in tradition. Amsterdam is sometimes called the Venice of the North because of this fluid network that crisscrosses the city. Though the canals were originally built to haul food and wares, today they're just as likely to transport visitors, marveling at these well-mannered facades. Transportation is this country's lifeblood. And Amsterdam's readiness to venture into the world brought tulip bulbs from Turkey, porcelain from China, and made this a truly international city. The Netherlands, Holland, the Dutch. Confused? Maybe this will help. The official name of the country is the Netherlands. Technically, Holland refers just to the western part of the country. But for most of us, Holland has become the country's familiar name, and the people who live here are known as the Dutch. This is Dam Square, Amsterdam's teeming hub. Some 800 years ago, wanderers from Europe stopped to build a dam on the Amstel River, foreshadowing this country's long tradition of wresting land from the sea. Holland's golden age was the 17th century. While the rest of Europe struggled to make ends meet, the Netherlands was booming. Amsterdam became the trading capital of the world. The Dutch fleet boasted nearly 5 times as many ships as the British. Like never before, it was an era of exploration and prosperity. Holland's colonial holdings stretched from the islands of Indonesia to the shores of the New World, and the money poured in. My friend and tour guide, Albert Hootslag, explains how merchants once navigated old Amsterdam's streets.
Until the time of Napoleon, every house in Amsterdam had a name. There were no house numbers at that time. It's Napoleon who changed all that. If you were invited to come to someone's house, you were told to come to the house that had a name. For example, if you had come to the dentist's house, you'd see a big tooth above the door. If you had come to someone who was originally from Alkmaar, you would see maybe the name of Alkmaar above the door. You would find his house, you would find a plaque, and just above the front door, usually, and that would tell you where he would live.
These colorful house plaques hint at the Dutch affection for art collecting, a hobby that in the 17th century became something of a national obsession. Today, as throughout its history, the Netherlands has been a huge supporter of the arts. In fact, this country has more art treasures per square mile than any other country on earth. The Rijksmuseum has an incomparable collection of paintings by the many artists who worked in and around Amsterdam. The prosperity of the Golden Age meant a big influx of people into the cities, and it was fashionable for these wealthy city dwellers to commission local artists. Landscapes and portraits were especially popular. Because of the tremendous demand for art, there was plenty of work for artists. In fact, many people entered the profession not because they loved to paint, but because they wanted to make money. But some of the greats grew tired of this portraiture for hire. They preferred following their passions to filling their pockets. Johannes Vermeer had a fascination with light. In his serene interiors, single figures engage in everyday tasks while clear light filters in, evoking a fresh, almost jewel-like glow. The great portrait painter Frans Hals was brilliant at capturing spontaneity. The jolly toper with his raised hand, teetering wine glass, and twinkling eyes is a moment of life frozen on canvas. Rembrandt was truly a giant in the history of art. His works, characterized by luxuriant brush strokes and a mastery of light and dark, conveyed a deep understanding of human character. The brilliant Night Watch was commissioned as an official portrait of a military company. In the painting, Rembrandt's subjects break from a traditional static pose as they shoulder their weapons, creating a striking image of movement and life. In a city crisscrossed by narrow streets and canal bridges, there's probably no form of transportation more suitable than the bicycle. It's true, Holland is very flat, and Amsterdam's transportation system is actually biased in favor of bikes, with wide, dedicated lanes. I'm off to explore more of the city. Because of its seafaring past and the constant traffic through its port, Amsterdam gained a reputation as a tolerant, easygoing town. A good example is the Jordaan neighborhood. In the 17th century, this was a refuge for Jews fleeing persecution across Europe. Protestants driven from Catholic France also found this a safe haven. But living in Amsterdam didn't always guarantee safety. Being squeezed between larger European neighbors has had its price. During World War II, the Netherlands was invaded by Germany. The country suffered terribly at the hands of the Nazis, and tens of thousands of Jews were killed. On the edge of the Jordaan neighborhood, in the attic of this merchant's house, Anne Frank's family hid in near silence from July 1942 to August 1944. The episode is heartbreakingly described in the young girl's famous diary, which has been translated into more than 60 different languages. In the face of Nazi occupation, Jewish persecution in Amsterdam began in earnest. Anne's father, Otto, carefully prepared a hiding place in the upstairs of this house that could only be entered through a secret passage behind a bookcase. His company's office was located downstairs. The secret household survived for 2 years with the help of Otto's Dutch business partners. Especially poignant are the pictures of movie stars and celebrities that Anne lovingly pasted to the walls of her dark bedroom. Someone betrayed the Franks to the Nazis, and they were arrested and sent to concentration camps. Anne Frank died in the Bergen-Belsen camp at the age of 15. Just across town is one of my favorite museums. Vincent van Gogh started painting in 1880 and he died only 10 years later. He's considered the first great Dutch master since the 17th century. Van Gogh began his tumultuous career here in the Netherlands, where he worked for 5 years before moving to France. He was deeply dissatisfied with the values of industrial society, and an intense sympathy for the poor dominates his early paintings. While other artists pushed Impressionism toward a more severe classical style, Van Gogh went in the opposite direction, seeking greater freedom to express his emotions. In his later works, he discovered the power of color, and every brushstroke became an expressive, graphic gesture. The results were electrifying. After Van Gogh took his own life, his brother Theo, an art dealer, collected 200 of his paintings and 500 drawings, as well as hundreds of his letters. They were eventually brought to this museum, the world's largest collection of Van Gogh's work. If bicycling isn't your thing, buy a strip ticket and hop aboard an electric tram. Dutch trams work more or less on the honor system, though inspectors occasionally pass through. When boarding, have the attendant punch your ticket or use one of the machines located in the back. The city's divided into zones, and you should always cancel one strip more on your ticket than the number of zones you're traveling. Amsterdam's liberal live and let live attitude is probably most noticeable in the renowned red light district. Prostitution has been a going concern in Amsterdam ever since the 13th century. Sea-weary sailors on leave roamed the streets looking for a good time and found entrepreneurial women needing cash. But this historic neighborhood holds more than just houses of ill repute. Amstelkring was once the home of a wealthy Dutch merchant. Today, this little-known museum conceals a fascinating record of life from centuries past.
They didn't have separate bedrooms in those days. People would sleep in different rooms, the whole family, children together. And the beds were so small, they looked like small cupboards because people didn't sleep the way we do today. They wouldn't lie down. They associated lying down with being dead. They would prefer to half sit up and have a lot of pillows in the back, and that way they felt more safe.
But the museum's greatest treasure is a small church built into the top 3 floors of the house. In the late 16th century, the Dutch government ordered the city's large Catholic churches to turn Protestant. Amsterdam, with its tolerant ways, still allowed Catholics to attend services as long as they were held in private homes like this one. At one time, there were more than 30 hidden churches like this in Amsterdam. But Amstelkring is the city's lone survivor.
Fries with mayonnaise, the national snack. And so darn good for you, too. It's not difficult to have a great meal in Holland. Whether you're sampling herring from a street stand or dining in a fine restaurant, the Dutch have very high standards. And true to its tradition as a melting pot, Amsterdam has adopted culinary influences from all over the world.
Because of Holland's former colonial dominance in the East Indies and the many Indonesians who migrated here, the Dutch have enthusiastically adopted Indonesian food. Rijsttafel, which literally means rice table, is a banquet of rice or noodles with countless spicy side dishes.
Andy Williams.
For the side dishes, over there is the chicken satay. This is grilled prawn. This is lamb in curry sauce. Mixed vegetables with bamboo shoot and coconut sauce. Okay, enjoy your meal, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Restaurant Puri Mas, located in Amsterdam's Leidseplein neighborhood, serves some of the tastiest rijsttafel in town. To explore the areas outside the city, you can use Holland's excellent public transportation system or rent a car. Just outside Amsterdam are some of the country's most engaging historical sites.
Mention Holland to people, and they inevitably conjure images of windmills, and with good reason. Nearly 1,000 of these revolving contraptions gild the Dutch countryside. Beginning around the 12th century, windmills became the chief source of power for this part of Europe.
With windmills, farmers could harness wind power to crush seeds and grind grain. But their most vital function was to drain the land of water. As you probably remember from grade school, nearly half of Holland is below sea level. By draining the water, farmers created fertile farmland, and thus began Holland's legendary battle against flooding as the ocean tried to reclaim its own. As one poet put it, Holland is a place where the broad ocean leans against the land. This area, called Zandse Schans, is just 15 minutes from Amsterdam.
Daar moet voor betaald worden, hè?
250 years ago, this was one of the world's first industrial parks. Today it's still a working village, preserving traditional Dutch industries and crafts. This windmill, nicknamed the Cat, grinds materials used for artists' paints.
The best what I like is working in a windmill with a very, very hard, strong wind. 50 miles an hour, 25 to 30 horsepower on the grinding stone, alone. Alone with the history of my grandfather, alone with the history of the windmills here. And all those people, they're working here. This gives a very great feeling.
The park's little shops feature all kinds of craft demonstrations.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome in our cheese farm. My name is Sabina, and I would like to tell you how we make the cheese over here. Every morning we start in this big container with about 200 liters of milk.
Here you can sample some of the best cheese on earth.
This one is a very old Edam cheese. This one is 2 years old. It's very hard, but still very nice to eat. Maybe if you're not able to cut this one, you can also use this one for the bowling. Or when you're angry at someone, you can also go throwing with it.
In the woodworking shop, you can see how those famous wooden shoes are actually made.
Nowadays they're made with machines. In the earlier days, however, by hand. They used a big knife to cut the entire outside shape like this. And once they had finished that, they would drill out the inside shape with a spoon scoop. This was quite labor intensive, took about 3 hours to make a pair of wooden shoes. Nowadays with the machines, they can make a pair in 5 minutes, and I will show you that. This machine is going to make the outside shape. Machine is 65 years old, works in the same way as how they make duplicates of keys. 3 knives in here will turn around fast. The foot follows the sample, so in that way we make an exact copy of the sample.
A few miles southeast of Amsterdam, the fairy tale castle Mouterslot rises from a moat. It was built in the late 13th century by Floris V, the Count of Holland. He helped Amsterdam's finances by allowing the city's citizens to transport their goods along the canals of Holland free of charge. This angered a group of noblemen who thought the Count's generous ways were cutting into their profits. In 1296, a date every Dutch schoolchild knows, these nobles imprisoned the Count in his own castle and then murdered him.
We have quite a collection of armors here, but actually one is suitable for fighting. That's a very suitable one. It weighs 17 kilos. Under it, you had to wear a chainmail to have more protection, 7 kilos. So it became quite heavy all in all, and you really needed a hand to get on your high horse. Very slow, because you might fall off on the other side, and that would really be the end of you.
Heading through South Holland's countryside, we plunge into landscapes straight out of Dutch master paintings. These bucolic scenes belie the region's turbulent history. Holland, along with Belgium and Luxembourg, was a highly contested prize by the rest of medieval Europe. Sitting on the delta of major European rivers, this area was strategically positioned to dominate trade.
Holland was ruled for 300 years by the mighty Habsburg dynasty. The harsh rule of the Spanish Habsburgs led to a revolt in the 16th century, and that's how the northern provinces gained their independence.
Those northern provinces ultimately became today's Netherlands, and the country's major political center developed here in The Hague. The Hague is a progressive international city with a royal pedigree. It grew up around the 13th century palace built by William, the Count of Holland. Today it's the seat of the Dutch government and home of the International Court of Justice for the United Nations. Like the rest of Holland, this city seems open to new ideas and different points of view. Just north of the city center, this stately building hides a 120-year-old art treasure. Panorama Mestdag is the world's largest circular painting. This sweeping view of the sea, wide beaches, and dunes of Holland spans a circumference of 395 feet. The scene depicts a small Dutch fishing village from the late 19th century. Gazing on the circular canvas is like taking a nostalgic trip through time and space. It's the work of Dutch painter Hendrik Mestdag and his team of assistants. The viewer's platform is a dune, creating the amazing illusion of actually being there. Another of The Hague's highlights is the diminutive city of Amsterdam. It offers a completely different outlook on the Dutch countryside. This is an entire town in miniature, a 1:25 scale reproduction of a fictitious Dutch city. For me, Amsterdam is loaded with personal childhood memories. This was my all-time favorite excursion when my family and I lived in Europe. In this tiny living landscape, trains run, ships sail, and there's an ongoing town fair. Resembling Gullivers in the land of Lilliput, visitors tromp happily up and down the little town streets. Whether you're traveling with a real kid or just the kid within, you'll never forget the incredible miniature world of Amsterdam. About 10 miles southeast of The Hague, Delft is like a scene from a Vermeer painting. Its canals, bridges, and stretches of gabled facades. Vermeer was born here, but his talent was so overlooked in his lifetime that he died a pauper.
Delft has become nearly synonymous with this distinctive blue and white china, and true to this country's international heritage, it was Italian immigrants who first introduced glazed pottery here.
But when the Dutch East Indies Company began bringing porcelain back from China, the Dutch fell in love. Local potters quickly adopted the Chinese method of creating fine blue and white vases and plates. Soon they were decorating them with Dutch landscapes and biblical scenes. Actually, Delftware comes in different colors, but it's these blue and white pieces that became this country's signature worldwide. Small Holland has had a disproportionately big impact on the rest of the world. From trading ships that traverse the oceans to brilliant artists who won our hearts, Holland's influence has reached around the globe.
And perhaps no other country in Europe welcomes visitors with such open arms. Come, see for yourself. I, meanwhile, in true Dutch tradition, have to be moving along. Other countries in Europe are calling my name.
Videos of Smart Travels Europe with Rudy Maxa are available for $24.95 each plus shipping. To order the 90-minute 3-program tape on Denmark, Belgium, and the Netherlands, or any other tape, call 800-866-7425. Rudy's handy companion book, smarttravels.tv, is $16.95. Please have a credit card ready and call 800-866-7425. On the web, it's smarttravels.tv.